Welcome and thank you for joining our Peace Summit today. My name is Tanisha Banks and I'm the principal here at Perspectives IIT Math and Science Academy, or MSA for short. I'd like to thank our assistant principal, Patrick Duffy, and all of the dedicated staff at the Math and Science Academy for working to support our scholars with their completion of this interdisciplinary project. And thank you, student volunteers, for your support. We want to recognize a few special guests here today. In the back of the room, Perspectives Board Chair Hall Adams with the law offices of Hall Adams. Not present right now, but a very, very important and critical member of just really helping to make sure that everything at MSA is just appropriate for students and given the supports that we need is board member Holly Copeland from Horizon Therapeutics. Valencia Wooten, parent of Perspectives alumni. And CEO, Ms. Deborah Stevens. Again, thank you all for joining us. For the first 2 weeks of school, all students at the Math and Science Academy engaged in an interdisciplinary social justice project. In science, math, English, and social studies classrooms, students worked to answer the essential question, how has systemic injustice perpetuated Chicago violence? Throughout the building, this innovative learning unit has promoted collaborative instructional opportunities. Our students, teachers, and families were challenged to connect their learning to social entrepreneurship in the hopes of reshaping our communities through problem solving and advocacy. I hope you had a chance to talk to our student presenters. Again, let's have a round of applause for them. As you can see, our scholars have a bright future, and we're really proud to celebrate them and give them an opportunity to showcase their work. At MSA, we're determined to see them succeed. So during our time together today, we will engage in a discussion addressing current efforts and also possible solutions to violence in Chicago. So let's begin with an introduction of our distinguished panelists. Serving on the panel, we have Nicole Carter, who's the Chief of Staff at Bright Star Community Outreach. Ms. Carter brings over 25 years of experience within the public and private sector, impacting individuals and families' lives through housing, education, and social service initiatives. Next, we have Mitchell Davis, Chief of Police for Hazel Crest Police Department. Chief Davis began his career in law enforcement with the Park Forest Police Department in 1991. He continues to serve as a leader in law enforcement and a highly sought-after advisor in public safety, criminal justice, and juvenile justice. Next, we have Mr. Algernoy Alexander, Executive Director of Wise Works. Mr. Alexander is a member of the Southland Juvenile Justice Center. He is an expert in the area of restorative justice. Adrienne Irmer is the Associate Vice President of External Affairs at Illinois Tech. Ms. Irmer is a talented and insightful leader who used her highly developed analytical and problem-solving skills honed at MIT in the nonprofit and public sectors for over 17 years. She is also a member of Perspectives Charter School's Board of Directors. Ms. Paulette Jordan is Head of Security at Perspectives Charter Schools. Ms. Jordan keeps us all safe and brings a network of wealth and knowledge and experience to her role here at Perspectives. She's a beloved and respected member of our network team. And last but not least is Dr. Phyllis West, Director of Social Justice at Governor State University. Dr. West is an expert in community public health and social work. She is committed to dismantling structural racism and inequalities associated with access to education, mass incarceration, chronic diseases, mental health, and barriers to healthy communities. And certainly last but not least, we'll hear from our student experts. We have in 12th grade, Ms. Shania Cribbs. Representing our juniors are Mr. Tommy Lee and Elijah Strange. Representing our sophomore class, we have Mr. Javion Thompson and Ms. Martinique Neal. And then representing our freshmen is Ms. Kari Given. And so before we begin our discussion, we are going to bring up a really, really talented and phenomenal scholar who is Ms. Leslie Williams. She has a poem she would like to share.
Okay, all right. Dear Black people, here's a poem for you. If you fit the criteria, please listen through. I'm not asking for much, but just for you to listen. It's been way too long. Don't this problem need fixing? By the time I'm done, you should have changed your mind. If you haven't, I'm really sorry I've wasted your time. We've been enslaved, oppressed, and stripped of our powers. We don't understand our worth, glory, and beauty. I mean, fighting each other. That's not our duty. It's been cycles of pollution that's been killing us off. And y'all want this world to be perfect, but at what cost? By what cost, I mean how long will it take? How many of our people will die? How many hearts are gonna break? A Black boy dies in America almost every day. And everybody says, oh, it was God's mistake. They normalize this and rather watch Kim K. They don't realize that these bullets aren't ripples of faith. They're drowning us out, leaving our community in drought. Silence in my mouth isn't gonna shut me out. Y'all not ready for this conversation, so I'll be quiet. Every time we Black people open up, it starts with violence. I have a voice and I'm gonna use it. Don't let these white people silence you with money and music. Here we go again. Black people want attention. I'm just a storyteller, so take another listen. 185 years ago was when our story started. I'm just deep-hearted. Shall we start from the beginning? That's too deep. I apologize. This could be my demise unless this poem doesn't qualify. But I'll go on telling Black people how we shouldn't be terrified. It's our country too. We want it just like you. We want more than a hashtag. Deaths aren't a trend. Unless you're the root of the problem, I'll allow you in. Hello, how are you? Take a seat. This is a poem about Black people. Well, all Black people aren't bad. They're dangerous. No, we aren't. Here you have me, a Black girl expressing herself and her feelings. Do I threaten you with my words? You can't call the police for freedom of speech. They feel frightened by a Black man walking in their stores, following him around saying, just making sure. That's what they all say until you're dead and still. I can't breathe wasn't enough for them. Let's be real. My poem is pretty clean, I have to admit, but to make sure nobody misses the problem within this, I'll list a couple people for you to never forget. Trayvon Martin, Emmett Till, Breonna Taylor, Angelos Crooms, Rayshard Brooks, Patrick Warren, George Floyd, Tiara Holmes, Malcolm Fitz. We, the Black people, of course, are not the problems. We want to solve them. Maybe us breathing irks you, but I apologize for us hearing this poem. It's like we're a trend, but our dying will never end unless we choose to change. We are more than looks. We are more than a color. We are more than what the eye sees. We aren't perfect, but we're human. Now, dear both people, now that I'm done, you should have changed your mind. If you haven't, I'm really sorry I've wasted your time.
And again, everyone, please remember her name. That's Leslie Williams. She's a sophomore at the Math and Science Academy. Now let's get started with some questions for our panel. This question is for all of our community leaders and experts. Would you please briefly explain your current role and share how your work supports communities on the South Side of Chicago? We'll try to limit responses to 1 minute.
try to do it in 1 minute. My name is Dr. Phyllis West. I am the Director of Social Justice Initiative at Governor State University. Prior to that, I have trained social workers for over 14 years, and that means I have 14 years worth of social workers in the field addressing everything you can imagine, from gun violence, mental health, they're therapists, and they're on the front line. I'm also a consultant around gang violence on the south and west side of Chicago, and I grew up in Chicago on the west side. Thank you. I'm going to stop there because I'm still crying.
Hello, young scholars. My name is Adrienne Ermer. I am the AVP for External Affairs at the Illinois Institute of Technology right down the street. That is a nebulous title that really just means I herd cats. I make external relationships with folks like elected officials and government agencies, pseudo-government agencies, and help to, advance forward the work of the university. The question was how we're building up the community we make investments in the community in small and big ways, in direct and direct ways. I think the most direct example I can think of is that we do put security, armed security guards in the community and around campus to ensure at least increased safety while you're passing through, which I think is important on a very, visceral level. But we also make really hefty investments now in young people. We have very, very, very generous scholarships for young folks who are looking to get a degree in a STEM field or even not STEM fields. We do have humanities at Illinois Tech. So I look forward to talking more about that today and afterwards. And I think I brought my whole box of cards, so each of you can have one if you need someone to reach out to. Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Mitchell Davis. I'm the police chief in the village of Hazelcrest. Been in law enforcement for 31 years, and the impact that I believe that I have that pertains to the South Side is what I do is I'm an advocate for folks that look like me as it pertains to the fractured relationship between law enforcement and communities of color. I'm very unapologetic in fighting for the rights of folks in black communities. I just finished my term as president of the Illinois Association of Chiefs of Police. I was the first president in the 80-year history of the organization. I am going to also be running for president of the International Association of Chiefs of Police. I'll be doing that as well. I'm currently the chairperson of the Illinois Law Enforcement Training and Standards Board, which is the board that oversees every police academy in the state of Illinois. So I wear a lot of hats, and I've traveled the country for many years, long before George Floyd was murdered, advocating to my colleagues that don't look like me that we got to repair what's wrong here. And I actually worked when Breonna Taylor was murdered. I was part of the team that went down and did an evaluation of the Louisville Police Department. So I wear a lot of hats in law enforcement, but the lens that I see things through and that I communicate through is fighting for folks who look like me, both in the community and in this profession. Thank you for having me.
How's it going? My name is Algernoy Alexander, the Executive Director of Wise Works. I'm also here on behalf of the Southland Juvenile Justice Council. I help the South Side and Chicago in a wide variety of ways. The first way is if you show me anyone that's broken or any individual that's not working to the best of their ability, I can show you a system that created that person. So what I do is I work with organizations, I work with schools on creating systems and practices in order to address the things that's causing that young person to commit violent acts or really try to address their unmet need that's causing them to make bad decisions. When I'm working with young people, I try to help them to establish their voice. First of all, through social emotional learning, helping them to get to the root cause of what's causing them to be successful or unsuccessful so that they can turn that into a system to really design the life that they want to live. So I'm looking forward to continuing this conversation with you all and continuing this work on the South Side.
Good afternoon. My name is Nicole Carter. I'm Chief of Staff at Bright Star Community Outreach. I am humbled and inspired to be in your presence today. At Bright Star Community Outreach, we focus on reducing the effects of trauma and violence in the greater Bronzeville community. And so we call that 22nd Street to the north, 67th Street to the south, everything between Lakeshore Drive and the Dan Ryan. We have after-school and out-of-school programs, we have mentoring, we have child and family services, we have a trauma helpline, and we do workforce development. We feel that all of those collaboratively work to create an ecosystem that affects violence in the community. A couple of our initiatives, we have what we call care rooms, caring and resilient environment rooms in 2 of our high schools. And those are decompression spaces. Those are spaces that are non-judgmental. If you're feeling anxiety, if you have trauma, if you've had any type of adverse effects at home, you can come into this safe environment where people have been trained. And what we say is we like to walk people from brokenness to wholeness. We also have ambassadors that go out into the community that say, this is what trauma looks like, this is how it shows up, versus, oh, you know, it is what it is. But we give you tools for success so you can advocate for yourself and for others. We've trained the CPD department in the 2nd District to understand what trauma looks like in their peers, as well as those on the streets. At the height of COVID, we helped to train some people who are in the funeral home business because, you know, they were experiencing trauma. So we try to do that on a really, really basic level. In addition, we're working to create workforce development that's not just a summer program for young people, but is year-long, because we understand that you all have needs on a yearly basis. But greater than that, we want to teach you what money does, because we know that financial stressors can lead to violence. So we always have financial literacy classes. So there's a lot that we do, but what's most important is that we listen to the community. We never want to do something to you, only with you. So I'm here to listen as much as I am to talk.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Paulette Jordan, and I currently operate as the Assistant Director of Safety and Security for the Perspectives Charter School Network. I also operate as a case manager for a youth shelter where we transition students that are homeless into group home situations. I do that in the evenings, at night. I have gone out on the street to pick up kids off the street that are homeless, and we bring them into the programs and try to get them into safe havens. So my work extends past my days here in the building with you all, which is why I stay so hard on the students and the Perspectives Network to be the best people that they can be, so that they don't end up in those homeless situations based on things that are beyond their controls. And so I just try to be someone that supports our students. I even go out on the weekends when you guys have those trending, let's get it busing moves. I meet kids on the trains on Chicago Avenue. I meet kids on the north side when they want to go to the North Avenue Beach. And so just encouraging students to always be the best people that they can be. So you might see Ms. Jordan anywhere redirecting.
All right, thank you, panelists. And now we're going to jump into some individual questions. So, Dr. West, how would you describe the connection between inequity and violence in Chicago?
First and foremost, thank you again for being here, and know that it is an honor. You answered this question as I walked around to each of you. You had the answers to the question. I had to say to the principal, you already know the answer. Aijan told me how to fix it. Asante told me how to use data to interpret and understand, and what do we do with that. So thank you for the work you're doing, because you are researchers and you have the answer. And whatever I say, I'm going to say the answer is in the mirror. All right? The answer is in the mirror. The answer is in the mirror because the number one thing you have to do is to understand history. If you understand the history and the structural, you heard her introduce me, and I said structural racism, right? Structural racism it's not just about the gun shooting you see today. It's by design. I had someone in violence tell me, if you really want to know the answer, follow the money. Think deeper, not just somebody you know who got shot, but what's behind how the gun got there, why is it in this particular neighborhood? When we talk about economic inequality, we're talking about distribution of wealth. Where is money and where is money not? Right? Asante, when you said, well, there's a correlation, if I'm not, and please forgive me if it wasn't Asante, but there's this correlation with poverty and economics. Poverty and gun violence. And you saw in your research that the poorer you are, the more likely you can be at risk of getting shot. It's not by mistake. In Chicago in particular, the history of Chicago, for those of you who are not here and for those of you who have been born here, understand that our communities were deliberately structured where you could only live in a certain place based on race. You couldn't live in certain places, and if you did, you were harmed. The poverty is an opportunity and it's a distractor. It's traumatic, but the opportunity is that somebody had perseverance back there and talked about what perseverance looked like and the resiliency, and we have that ability. So when we look at how is it set up, you can't address gun violence unless you address poverty, economic opportunities such as your entrepreneurship class. You're doing those things now, right? You have to be able to education, and the quality of education you get will determine your destiny. I grew up in North Lawndale, first generation African American in my family to graduate from college. Back then, they said that North Lawndale was a permanent underclass. It was like a dark black hole, and you couldn't come out if you grew up there. Well, that's not true, because I'm here. All right? I'm here. It's not true. Which means what you hear about your community, question everything, everything. Change policies. Policies are going to need to be changed, right? We need more jobs. We need access to tax base. What are we doing with TIF dollars? Ask questions. What is a TIF dollar? What do you do with it? Where is this money going in your community? And why are you being taxed even more just because there's a black tax? Why are you being charged? My colleague right here talked about the colored tax and redlining. There's a lot of inequity and injustice being done that's underneath the gun violence we see, and we need to address it. I'm going to leave you. I have, of course, this is a dissertation and I can't take it, but I'll tell you this one. How many people in this room will be 18 years old soon? Raise your hand. Let me see. All right. Those of you who will be 18, you are the less likely person to vote. They are anticipating and expecting you not to vote. Who's going to change what we have in this structure? Your generation. You can't change it without a vote. They literally sit back and plan how many are going to jail, how many are not going to vote, how many are going to do this, that, and the other. It's a plan. And you and we do it together by reversing that and the perseverance we have. I'm going to stop that for now. Yes, I'll stop there.
Thank you so much, Dr. West. So for you, Ms. Ermer, would you please describe how institutions and organizations like yours are investing in neighborhoods to make them safer?
Is this needed for streaming? Oh, okay. Because I got a loud voice, I can use it. So safety is a very nebulous term. So many things affect someone's sense of safety, internal and external. You know, there's trauma that we each deal with and the PTSD associated with that trauma that creates this sense of unsafety and isolation, right? But then there's the externalities like an actual police officer and law enforcement, or a quiet place where you can eat a good meal and not be judged, right? The university is doing our very best understanding the history from whence we came as a land grab back in the early 1800s and late 1800s. We understand that. And we know and acknowledge that the land we also sit on was originally owned and lived on by native peoples, okay? That obliges us to do the best work in the community today because of the harms of the past. So yes, we invest in armed security so that going to and from the bus stop, y'all have a better sense of physical safety with the presence of a uniform and a vehicle there. But we invest in people. We're not in the business anymore of just degrees. We're looking to launch an engine of opportunity on campus within the next 12 to 18 months, where if college is not your destination, you can come and get a certificate, and you can use that certificate directly into employment, into a STEM career that will pay beyond a living wage, pays well above minimum wage, and will do the best to lift families out of financial disrepair and disinvestment. So I think broadly, that's it in a nutshell. I don't want to be too long-winded because I do work in academia and I've been taught how to be long-winded, so.
Thank you so much, and we'd love to hear more about your certification opportunities. We offer a number internally for our seniors here as well, and would love to expand on that. Chief Davis, how do you see systemic injustice manifested in local school systems and neighborhoods?
In summary, equitable access and opportunities. That's how I see the systemic things that happen both in school and in the neighborhoods that affect young folks like you. You all are the best of the best. And many of you are going to be great. Most of you are going to be great in spite of. But what happens is I know how it can be. I work in school. I've worked for 25 years. I worked for 25 years in schools in the suburbs. And not just suburb and city, but even in the suburbs, there's a difference in what opportunities and what access are presented to mostly young folks that look like you all. I grew up in the South Side. I was born in Chicago, grew up in Harvey. When I grew up in Harvey, it was not many black people that lived in Harvey. I went to Thornton High School, and when I went to Thornton High School, we had a technical center. We had movie theater. People could do TV shows. They could do things like that. All those things existed in our schools. Now, none of those things exist in the schools, but they still exist in other schools. Your teachers that you all have great teachers here, but they need to be compensated properly so that they can make sure that they're going to always give you their best. But we need to make sure that we're taking care of them so you all can have access. You all should have, and this is no knock on you all school, ain't no way we're supposed to have fans in here. There's supposed to be some air conditioning in here, just like it is if you go to other schools. This is real talk. But it's things like that, and that's got nothing to do with the faculty or the staff. They love you all, and they're going to make sure that they do. But from a systemic standpoint, you all are supposed to have the best of everything so that the greatness that is within you is able to come out because you have access to it. And that also translates into our neighborhoods. There are folks who, and this is the fight that I have with people in my profession, folks who come to our neighborhoods that are in law enforcement, and mind you, this is not everybody, but there are people who come into our neighborhoods and they treat us less than because we live in certain neighborhoods. Now, as a chief, I don't tolerate that from my officers. If I find out, they're gone. I'm firing them. But there are people that systemically, there are people within this profession that they feel that because you come from a certain area that you get, I blew out the mic, I'm sorry. You get treated differently because of who you are. So those are the systemic things that I see, but there are folks that are out there fighting for you all. And in my arena, I'm fighting unapologetically for you all. And I'm speaking to some great young folks already here, and folks always say that you all are our future. You're not our future, you're our present. We need you all right now to do the things that you all are gonna do and just grow into your greatness. So thank you all.
Thank you so much, Chief Davis, and you never have to apologize for telling the truth at the Math and Science Academy. All right, so up next, Mr. Alexander. How do restorative justice practices influence violence prevention efforts?
I love that question. There's a quote that I often read and I live by it. It's easier to build strong children than it is to repair broken men. Whenever I look at the violence that's happening in various communities, I recognize that as being a symptom of an unmet need or a harm that was done to that individual that has not been met. And that's systemic. That's economic, that's educationally, right? So when it comes to restorative practices, I truly believe that restorative practices can be one of those things that can help solve that systemic issue. For me, restorative practices consist of two things: empathy and advocacy. Empathy and advocacy. Empathy is me really understanding why a person does what they do, and through social emotional learning, help them to understand the root causes of why they're making decisions. When you help a person understand why they're making a decision, you raise their consciousness and give them more, allow them to be more empowered in the decisions that they make. I truly believe that if we work on systems and work on these institutions and bring restorative practices, the restorative mindset, right? The restorative language, and then the restorative actions, I believe if we bring all three of those into the school system, into the neighborhood, into the individual, teaching you how to assess your own personal needs. Really quick question. Raise your hand if you've ever woken up and you've been upset and you had no idea why. Look around. That's everybody, right? What if they taught you a system by which to assess your own personal needs, and then taught you a system on how to advocate for those needs so that they don't manifest into violence, or manifest into you being upset, or manifest into you disengaging from the educational system that you need to truly empower yourself? See, that's where I think restorative practices are needed, and if we implement that in our communities, into the educational system, I truly believe that we will get a different outcome. The violence will absolutely be reduced because we're going to address the unmet need. What are they looking for when they commit the violence? Is it because they're not feeling significant? Is it because they're not feeling connected, right? So learning to really address those unmet needs through restorative practices, I truly believe is going to impact the level of violence in the community.
Thank you so much, Mr. Alexander, for, unbeknownst to you, volunteering to teach us those emotional regulation practices here. Great. Ms. Carter, what role do young people play in growing communities and promoting safety?
So I think that youth are the missing piece. Young people have to be engaged in the process. I was speaking to someone and I was saying that it's really important to hear the voice. So I'm a little bit older than you, probably a lot. And so I can't necessarily create what's gonna make you interested and what's gonna make you involved, but you all can talk to us. And I think it's incumbent upon us as adults to listen to what you have to say. So in some of the work that we do, before the pandemic, because the pandemic blew the world up, we were in 18 schools and we surveyed students in 6th grade, 8th grade, 10th grade, and 12th grade. And we took a full class period, 128 questions, and we found out what was going on. And then we did that 2 years later, same 6th grade, 8th grade, 10th grade, and 12th grade, and we were in 21 schools. We surveyed a total of 2,000 young people. And based on that, we created programs, one of which became the care rooms that became what we're doing in terms of intervention. Young people told us that they needed to feel connected. They wanted to understand what was going on with them socially and emotionally, and so we created those programs. And so what we try to do at Bright Star is we want to listen to you all and then create what you need, because that's the only way we're going to solve it. Again, we can't do things to you, we have to do things with you. So your voice is important. Anytime someone asks you for your opinion, please give it to them, and then hold them accountable to listen. It's not enough for us to listen to you and then do what we want to do. It's important that you hold adults accountable when they ask for your input, that they really listen.
Thank you so much, Ms. Carter, for encouraging our scholars to share their voice. And Ms. Jordan, last but not least, how can schools create safe environments that are also equitable across all demographics?
A lot of times when people think about safety, they start to think about our chief, they think about Ms. Jordan and security, but we don't really think about what really makes our kids feel safe. And a lot of time, our kids feel safe when they know people are invested in them. When I can hear your voice, when I know that your points are valid, when I make sure that I do check-ins with students. And that's important for all educators across the board, and not just the security piece. Those are the things that make our kids feel safe. Those are the things that make the kids want to show up to our schools and be the best people that they can be. Our guiding principles of perspectives is what we expect our students to reflect upon on a daily basis. How are you being the best person you can be? Are you showing integrity when you're in the classrooms? Are you being reflective on your actions? Are you thinking before you act? Those things are important. Developing the equity for inclusion, developing education, developing our educators is the responsibility of the school, and Ms. Banks and the assistant principals to develop the educators through the professional developments, where they have the opportunity to create conversations of cultural differences. Our teachers have to know that none of our students are the same just because we look the same. And if they understand what our culture is like, they can better service us as students. And that's something that's very, very important in our community, and that's what's going to be what keeps our kids safe within their mindsets.
And this final question is for any panelists who'd like to share. How can we as a community work to ensure young people's safety as they travel to and from school?
Okay, I got voluntold. Well, one of the most important things is to, and I heard somebody else already say it, is that we have to listen to you all, because you all know the challenges that you have going to and from school. I can tell you what I believe is going to help you, and that's going to do something, but at the end of the day, we have to listen to you all to find out directly from you and make you a part of the conversation. So one of the things that I talk to, once again, when I travel the country talking to my colleagues, I try to share with them that we're partners in this whole thing. And if we come up with how we're going to police the community, that's not always in line with what the community wants. And we should be able to engage with members of the community to get input to show you all want to be safe. So tell us, what can I do to help make you safe? And you give me your wants and needs, and I can share that with my technical expertise, and we can come together and come up with solutions. So it's a collaborative effort. We got to work together, and we can make those things happen.
I'm a peak performance coach, so for me, everything goes back to the mindset, right? If I can if I can show a person a system by which to help them when they're about to make a decision, to assess it for if it's the right decision, there's a system that I go through. I ask them, does it feel good? Is it good for you? Is it good for others? Is it good for the greater good? If it falls within that, then it's something that you should do. I truly believe that there are things that we can do as a society, but I think the most important thing that we can do is we can teach young people to advocate and be empowered to know that they can have absolute control over their lives. And I think the more individuals that we work with, the more youth that we talk to, the more youth that we actually empower, I think that can become infectious. And I think that ultimately can have a large impact on keeping them safe as they walk to and fro, right? Because ultimately, often it's the youth being engaged with the youth in violent ways because they're trying to respond to an unmet need or a harm that they've had. So if we really teach them how to properly address a harm, then I think we're ultimately going to be making them a lot more safer as they come to and from school.
Yeah, I would just add to the conversation that it ain't snitching if it's gonna help right a wrong. It's not snitching if it's going to heal someone or save someone's life. And I think we need to take that message away because my family has been hit by gun violence and nobody said anything, and his crime and his murder is still unsolved. How many of you are in this position right now? How many of you would be in a happier person every day when you woke up if you knew that that harm could be healed by somebody saying something? So I just want to leave that with you young people because it is important and it could possibly save someone's life, okay? Know that. And I see you, young people.
Thank you. We really, it's not a one answer, right? It's a multi-pronged, multi-systemic answer of how do we make it safe for you and for us, right? Because there's a quote that says, I am because we are because I am. It doesn't matter the age, color, or race. We are one when we really look at it. And just to, and so in order, I believe in order to make us, make sure our youth are safe as they continue their scholarship. Thank you. As they continue their scholarship and learning and growing, because it's your right to grow healthy, happy, and whole. Life is going to be heartache, but part of it is we need to redefine community. Who was the young lady we had a conversation about redefining community? Do you remember? She's not, is she in here? Right, it was with your group. Right, yeah, so just wave your hand. We were talking about redefining community. A lot of times we think about community as the people just solely in that area, but community is what we create. You have an amazing community here at Perspective. We love being here. This is an honor. This is fun. I would work here any day. This is good. Oh, okay. And so one thing we have to do is redefine community and redefine the community in which we live. Right? And the reason I say that is because none of us should be alone. We should create and talk to families and work with families to say, okay, what can we do together? How can we partner? I'm a former foster mother as of 3 weeks ago. I needed a community. I had to create a community in order to do that. We can do the same thing within our communities. They're called other mothers, other fathers, other aunties, and we can recreate that. The other part of, like I said, it's multiple things, is to redistribute the funds, right, of where we're putting dollars in order to make sure those real safe zones are true safe zones, right? The other one is when we think about peace zones, we need to consider bringing, and some of the organizations are already doing this. I know a lot of the gang violence organizations are doing this. We have to keep doing it. Give you an example. In Roseland, there is a place in Roseland where there's this lady who takes care of children. It's her preschool at home. And there was someone there selling drugs next to the preschool. They shot somebody there, they killed that person, and then the home became vacant. She went to the city and she went to the community and the alderman said, I want that home. Somebody out of nowhere bought the home for her and they expanded the preschool, the daycare. Now here's the deal. Gangs were still on various corners in Roseland. They were still shooting. They had a conversation with the gang members and said, this zone right here, it's off limits. It wasn't the police. It was the community. And they came together, rival gangs came together and said, this here right here, this square right here, off limits. It happens all the time. So we can't believe that this is not happening. It's just that we have to continue it. It's just like eating. You can't eat one time and then you're finished, right? You're going to get hungry again. So that's the same thing. In other words, there's a system that we can put in place that says this is off limits, and you are off limits. You are our gems. Governor State, we call ourselves the gems of the Southland. You are our gems, and we need to invest in you and protect you.
Thank you so much, everyone. We'll save some time at the end for final remarks, but now we're going to transition to hear from our student panelists. So Elijah, please describe your experience living in Chicago. What aspects make you proud of where you live, and what things do you wish were different?
I ain't gonna lie, I had a lot of experiences. Everybody read at least one story about a country boy coming to the city and having a whole new experience. And as a person who had both lived in Pennsylvania with lots of farmland and lived in the city, this is my 7th year staying here, I can say that the city lights, being able to look out the window and seeing all type of lights, going down to drive down to a lake whenever I want to, and being able to see all type of buildings over a large body of like water, it's beautiful. That's what I'm proud to say, is that I'm able to go anywhere in this city and see something beautiful, whether it's something as some street corner paint all the way to the tallest skyscraper I can find. But it's beautiful. I'd compare it to like the best mansion you can find. But I would also compare it to whether you gave a bunch of kids the keys to that mansion and they made it into a playground. I feel like if I can change anything, I change the respect that Chicago had gave, or no, the respect that we give Chicago. I feel like we should give this city the same amount of respect as it has beauty, because right now the name is just going down and down and down. If I can compare this, like the story, or I can compare the respect that we have, I would compare it to like a fire. Fire is uncontrollable, it grows and it's burning. But if I can change something, I would want it to be more like water, because at the end of the day, we shape our community. The city's not throwing trash down. Skyscrapers aren't shooting people. That's all humans being doing this. We're doing this to the city. And I want it to be more like water. When you put water into a box, it takes that form. If you put water into a bottle, it has the form of a water bottle. So I feel like we should take this city and put it into a water bottle form that's full of love, respect, and gratitude, and we should seal it tight and leave it there.
That was deep. All right, Ms. Martinique, how has systemic injustice impacted your life and opportunities in Chicago? If so, please explain how.
Well, me personally, I haven't experienced any systematic injustice, but I know that is a big issue, especially for the Black community, because if, for example, I'm gonna use these lovely ladies that's in front of me. If y'all go and y'all apply for a position at a law firm, y'all are less likely to get the job if y'all were going up against a person of a different color. Another example is like our Black males. They stereotype them as gangsters, thugs. They stereotype them as something that they're not, and they try to make us seem that we're all just evil, we're ghetto, we're disrespectful, when that's really not the case. And I feel that should change, because you should not judge someone just based on how they look or where they come from. Because a person could come from what we call the hood and have a lot of respect and a lot of manners for authority, but a person who comes from a lot of wealth could disrespect everybody and they see it as okay. But if we do it, it's like, oh, they're ghetto, they're this, they're that, and I feel like that is unfair.
Thank you so much. And then Kari, what aspects of your community could and should be changed to curb violence?
I personally feel like, I personally feel like I was speaking aspects of gun laws. I feel like gun laws should be changed because in the area that I grew up in, there's a lot of gun violence, and I never really had that chance to just go around and play with my friends. And I feel like it shouldn't have been that way. I feel like every kid should have had a chance to like do just kid things, like for instance, go play in a park without your parents having to worry about somebody shooting at y'all, or as a teen now, let y'all go out to parties and have fun with y'all friends without worrying about y'all being into car accidents or anything like that. It's just, I feel as though the issue is they don't give us what we need to succeed, and instead of trying to fight back, most people turn to what's easiest.
Tommy, how does focusing on social-emotional learning, like our emphasis on a disciplined life and its principles, play a role in stopping violence?
Living a disciplined life plays a role in stopping the violence, because when you think about the word discipline, you necessarily think of somebody that's stable and somebody that know like how to do the right thing even when the wrong thing is presented to them. And oftentimes the wrong thing is going to be presented to you. You're going to want to do the wrong thing in that moment. But when you know how to, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm looking for, when you know how to control yourself and you know how to, you know what I'm saying, develop a sense of self-control, that's discipline, you know what I'm saying? So living a disciplined life can help because it could keep you safe, and oftentimes violence is presented, you know what I'm saying, when you're not living discipline.
Thank you so much. And then Javion, same question for you.
So, like what he was saying, leading a disciplined life, because when I came to the school like about last year, that's the first thing I ever looked at in the first room, live a disciplined life. And then I'm looking at it like, because most of those principles are already lived by, right? So it was like I didn't really fully understand it, like my mental, like I didn't fully understand the full capacity of what it meant to be living a disciplined life. And then the older I got and the more like I've been here and I understood, is that like overall, it's not all about just being disciplined as like always staying in order. It's about doing what's right and what's right for others. For example, one that I always will forever respect is respecting differences, because not everybody gonna come from the same background as you. Not everybody is hood. Not everybody is educated as you. Not everybody knows everything that you know. So the best that you can do is just treat them how you would want to be treated. And I feel like that's a problem that like a lot of people don't really understand, because words hurt. Like the phrase, like a metaphor that I always been hearing growing up is like, stick and stone can break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Words do hurt. Like you can say something to people and that will like mentally like break them, like they'll snip. And then a lot of people think they can just pass words around and say things to different people, but that can like kill them. Like some people are suicidal. Like you gotta watch what you say, because you could take somebody's life and then later on you can feel guilty about that, and now you live in your own guilt, and then now your vibes getting passed around to everybody. Now everybody is all slumped up and not feeling good, and that's bad for the community. So I say that living a disciplined life is like just doing what's right and do right by you and your peoples and stuff like that.
Thank you, Javion. And last but not least, Shania, how can our country and city's leaders show they care more about young people, particularly when it comes to keeping young people safe?
I don't really need the mic because I'm loud, but city leaders can show they care more by being more. Oh, my bad. City leaders can show they care more by being more sentimental to younger generations' developing minds. When younger individuals are exposed to aggression and negativity, they try to mirror this behavior to ensure that these things doesn't happen to them at all or happen to them again, which may cause them to endanger themselves. Being more aware that children are around or involved will ensure the perseverance of younger generations' existence.
Thank you, and then we do have a bit more time, so community leaders, do you have any final remarks you'd like to share?
No, you don't have any? Oh, okay. You want to think more?
Well, my final remarks are that, you know, I was asked to come here to impart some things that I've been exposed to you all, but I've been the one that's been blessed. These young folks, and you know, I do this a lot. This is what I do. I give presentations. I do it all over the country. I've talked to people all over the world. But as we talked about earlier, we got to listen to you all. The folks that need to hear you all, the things that you all just said are, you know, I know that's in you because I see it all the time. I told you about your greatness up front. I know that's in you all. So while I receive it and it still just fills me up, I'm so proud of you all, but I already know that. But there are people, those folks who don't know you all, those folks who judge you all for who you are and where you come from. We've got to present you all with the forum so that they listen to what you all are saying. And is it going to change everybody's head? No, it's not. But we want to change as many hearts as we can. And we can only do that by exposing you all for what you truly are. And this is what you all truly are. And I should have given you all my time because you all did much better than me.
I feel like there's so many things that can be said, and I really respect the time that I've spent here and amongst you all hearing your perspectives. I would say treat yourself like a number 2 pencil. A pencil has a purpose, and that pencil knows its purpose. And that pencil's purpose is to write its own narrative. I want you all to take control, radical control over your lives, and live your life like you're creating a narrative that you want the world to experience. What is it that you want the world to know about you? Also look at a pencil from the perspective of it has an eraser, right? Some of you may make mistakes, but understand those mistakes can be erased and tell that story again. But the most important part is the part that really makes that pencil work, and that's the lead. And I would say the lead for you all is your spirit. Do something daily to feed your spirit so that you can truly create the narrative that you want to live by. Really quick question. Raise your hand if you took a shower within the last 24 hours. Shower, bath, wash up, whatever you want to call it, right? Right? Look around. Everyone does it, right? The reason why you do it is because you know that every day you attract germs, right? The reality of it is you would never rely on last week's shower to keep you fresh today, right? Well, negative words and negative experiences work very much the same way. So you have to make sure that you put a practice every day to surround yourself deliberately with something positive. Implement a positive practice in your lives so that you can truly control your life and write your own narrative.
So I'm going to switch it up a little bit. So September 11th from 12 to 6, we are having the Greater Bronzeville Family Fest. It is a day of music, it is a day of fun, it is free food, it is entertainment, and I want you to come and be our guests. Throughout the day, we're going to be giving away gift cards totaling $25,000. As long as you register, you are eligible to win. But it's really a day of community and celebration and hopefully advancing the work that we're going to be doing. So if you're familiar with Woodson, Carter G. Woodson School, one side is CPS, the other side used to be the charter school. We have been granted that building and we're going to begin to repurpose it and change it into a community center. So that's going to be the announcement of that day and beginning the work where we bring community collaborative partners so that we can work together to help the Greater Bronzeville community. So I have a flyer. I'm going to pass them out. I really, really want you to come. It's going to be a great day, but more than that, it's free and fun.
I'm gonna leave you with something my mother has always taught me and said to me since I was younger than each of you. People will spend a great deal of time trying to take things from you. They'll try to take your coins. She said money, but it sounds cooler if you say coins. They'll try to take your cookie. They'll try to take your property, but they can never, ever take your education. Whatever that education is it a degree, is it a certificate, is it lived experience, is it your own trauma educating you how to be different in the future? They can never take that from you. So just take that piece of information with you, and I want to leave that with you because it has always stuck with me all these many, many years I've been here on Earth. Yeah.
I just want to say thank you again. I want to start off, I want to end like I started, thanking you and saying that it's an absolute honor to be here. Just wonderful, amazing. I see the joy in your professors. If you were at a university, Perspective can be a university because you did do university work today, people. I see the pride in the professor, the teachers. I'm at a university. The people and the staff here, and they are so proud of each of you. And the only thing that I want to leave you with is not anything profound, but I guarantee you if you do it, there are going to be many answers in there. Study, learn your history. If you live in a certain community, learn the history of that community, learn the history of your family, learn the history of Perspective, learn the history of Chicago, learn history, because history repeats itself. And everything that we're seeing now, there's something in history that connects to it. It's just going to make you understand it. You probably hate history. Those of you who hate history, don't worry. Everything is history, including our relationships, right? Our friendships, everything is history. So be well, and I thank you for sharing your hearts with me. Peace.
So thank you, everyone. And then community leaders, I want to thank you and welcome your continued partnership. Scholars, this year our motto is opportunities knocking. And so I just want to, just say, right, and I think that nobody here doubts that and everyone's aware just of how brilliant you guys are. And I want to empower you to lift up your voice, to confront and audaciously call out all of the systemic issues that are impeding your access to opportunity, and just really continue to be advocates for yourselves and for what you deserve, because you deserve the world, and I'm truly sorry that the world hasn't given you everything that you deserve. Our panelists and students contributed thoughtful questions and provided important input to our discussion. The work and conversation doesn't end when we walk out the door. We must remain mindful of the role each of us should take to promote the pillars of a disciplined life as it relates to self-perception, relationships, and productivity. Finally, it's with deep gratitude that we say thank you to everyone here today for being a part of the 2022 MSA Peace Summit. Thank you for your encouraging and support for our young people today, and farewell. Okay, not quite farewell. Elijah has something else that he wants to say.
I don't got much to say, but I just wanted to leave with one more thing. One of my favorite quotes I was forced to study for like 2+ years before I came here. It's from Abraham Lincoln. It goes by, before I get into it, I want to say that my big thing is that a lot of the problems do not start with one person. There's not only one person going out there being racist. There's not just one person going around shooting people, and one person did not cause redlining. Almost every problem in the world and every problem that we're facing now was caused by a group of generations, and it will probably continue going for a very long time. So just like it took a group to cause these problems, it's going to take a group to solve these problems. So because of that fact, I chose the quote from Abraham Lincoln that a house that stands divided by itself cannot stand at all. Meaning that if we don't come together and fix our house, and our house is gonna fall. If our house is sectioned and we're enemies within the same house, it's just gonna fall, just like it already is. So it's gonna take for me, you, Ms. Banks, and everybody else in this room to go ahead and finish what we didn't start.
And now we're closing out. Thank you so much.